So I just mentioned to Bill and Steve that I finally got around to watching the James Bond movie Goldfinger. And actually, I didn't get around to doing it. I happened to walk into the house while it was already in progress. My parents-in-law were here and my wife, and they were watching it. And I'd heard of it, and I knew the song from it. But I was really stunned, not only just to see it in living color, which it was very vivid, but the pacing of the movie, when was this made? Early 60s, mid 60s?
1963.
63. Okay,
so I was Steve Green,
nice.
You stud.
It might be 64. I'd have to double check.
I think it was one of those two. I think 64 might have been Thunderball, but we'll see.
So I'm like 2 or 3 years old at the time when this thing came out. But I just thought, as I was watching it, I almost interrupted to say, you could never get away in Hollywood with making an action film these days that has so many slow-paced scenes in it of people just sort of working out ideas and slowly moving around a golf course and things like that.
Cheating at gin.
When did they invent modern action films, Steve? Would you say Terminator 2 maybe?
Oh, man.
That's not an action film.
I know,
not
but that was the cut thing. That was the scene cuts every second kind of action.
Terminator 2, you could make a really good argument for that, Bill. That's the one where it really almost never stopped.
All right, I'm going to go with French Connection.
French Connection. There's another film I haven't seen, but my Amish friends will not be surprised.
Both of them are amazing.
French Connection car chase scene, Scotty, is one of the, well, it's not one of it. It is the editing. It's a classic. It's the classic piece of editing in film history. There are a couple of shots, and they're doing this by physically cutting film. Don't forget, they're not backing up little keys on a computer. There are a couple shots in that chase sequence that are 4 frames long.
Wow,
that's an eighth of a second.
You wonder whether Hollywood began making movies that were quicker paced like that because America's attention span was shrinking, or whether because Hollywood made those films, America's attention span shrunk.
It's a feedback loop. It's like the hand-brain loop. It's like the more advanced the brain got, the more you could do fine manipulation with your hands. I'm talking about the species now, not me. And then that neural network actually built brain pathways and allowed you to do more, and it was just like a real upward bound feedback loop.
Yeah, another thing is Hollywood's increasing reliance on foreign markets for its profits, because an action scene translates into any language because there's no language. But a Bond movie that features a game of gin, what are people in China? Do people in China even play gin? How
do they even drink gin? That's the bigger question.
That Crazy Rich Asians movie that we saw last year or so, they were playing. There's a Chinese game in that. I think Chinese, whatever country it was. I don't know. It was some non-American country. But anyway,
that's all you need. That's all that matters.
Some sort of Asiatic foreign land. Country. But they had this
out there someplace.
This game that they were playing, which I've never seen in my life, was central to the plot of the film. And nevertheless, the film did okay in the U.S., I think.
Was it Mahjong?
Maybe. That could have been it.
Little tiles?
It was, yeah, I think so.
Oh, it was a great game, Mahjong.
Yeah.
The first modern film, I think, really is Jaws. That's the first modern movie.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Why so?
Slow by today's standards, but in the best possible way.
It was the first movie that had modern coverage, had modern cinematography. It was the first movie that really worked so closely with the score that you can't imagine it without the score. It was it was Steven Spielberg's, what was it, his second film?
Yeah, well, and his first was, I think, made for TV.
His first film was the Duel.
Yeah,
actually, he made one before that called Amblin. Amblin was like kind of a short, and actually, I think the first thing he ever directed was he directed an episode of Night Gallery. Wow. He directed a great episode of Night Gallery.
Which one can you remember? I used to love that show.
Sure, it's the one with the woman who has eye transplant, and it's a Joan Crawford, and she gets to see for like 24 hours or something, and then there's a blackout or a solar eclipse or some.
I think it's a blackout.
Some typical twist like that.
Yeah, I saw Duel on TV, and I remember
It's a scary film.
just being mesmerized. Yeah, I can still. I only ever saw it once. I have vivid images in my mind of scenes from that movie. Now, what, 40 years later, or something like that?
You know why that movie worked? Because you never saw the truck driver.
Never
That's
saw
why the movie
truck
worked.
driver.
Oh,
That's
it's
right.
scary.
Ever.
It was just the truck. It was the truck
Who was the
that
villain?
wanted you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just that the idea that essentially you could convey, for want of a better term, dialogue by cutting to different shots. Like the words of that movie were shots.
That's the language of cinema, yeah.
Aaron
Eisenstein
Sorkin
invented a lot of that.
I watched a masterclass by Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The West Wing and A Few Good Men and a bunch of other things. And he says that the script, that dialogue in a script is quite literally music. And he illustrated by showing several clips from The West Wing and other places where he literally, in his mind, he says, I don't picture people when I'm writing dialogue. I hear music. I hear how the beat and the meter and the repetition and the themes and everything
That's
interact.
fascinating.
Anyway, so let's not go on in the fascinating vein, because this is Right Angle Backstage.
I don't want to set any standards that we would have to live up to in the future.
So this, what we call that first 7 minutes of this little episode is off-putting for new members. It comes under the category of off-putting.
We need to cut that line and stick it in front.
So about 3 times the new person will look at this and go, "What the hell is going on? What is this? What are they doing? Do they even know the cameras are on?" And then if you stick with it, the payoff is that it ends after about 40 minutes.
Yes. You know what this reminds me of? I'll tell you what this reminds me of. My friend Phil Trick told me this story. He said they were on a cross-country trip, just a bunch of guys, like teenagers and stuff, and they were on like the Florida Turnpike or something, and there were just rest stops, and then the next rest stop was like 36 miles, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And all 4 guys in this car just had to pee like really, really, really badly. And they'd been talking about it for like half an hour and almost an hour, so they get to this rest stop, and the guy who's driving the car goes blowing right past it. And they're screaming and yelling at him, and they're giving him endless grief. And they finally somehow make it to the next rest stop without exploding. And they say to him, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Because just think about how good this feels now." I wouldn't deprive you of this.
I was afraid that he had already relieved himself and decided to just keep on driving.
Nope.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm Scott Ott. Bill Whittle and Stephen Green are here gathered in the Situation Room to discuss this week's episodes of Right Angle, of which Bill Whittle has the privilege of hosting 2 this week. And Bill,
yes.
I hesitate to say this, but did you go with your radical and somewhat modest proposal this week?
I did, and I not only did that, but I decided I wanted to do a show on another post that I made yesterday on the members only blog. So we're doing 2 out of the members only.
You did 2 posts on the members only blog yesterday, and I only read one of them?
Yes, I did.
Oh my goodness.
I did.
I got to be more careful about how I read that.
So the one I did called a modest proposal, which basically said, since the members insist that we put the members only show out to the public, at least for me, what I'm going to try and do in the future is at least let the members pick the topic. So I said Steve gets a pass because of his artisanally selected steel cut topics and lightning round, at least until we get to lightning round MM. And then it's 2000, and Scott can do whatever the hell he wants. But I did see it. There was nobody had a big win in terms of the upvotes. So the one I'd like to do is one that talked about Andrew Breitbart talked about the dog whistle and how a dog whistle is a kind of it's like a code. A lot of times you hear it used in kind of a negative way, like, no, he didn't really say that, but what he really meant was that it was a dog whistle that was inaudible, but the followers knew that this was a call to go out and murder black people. That's usually what the dog whistle translates into. But in the members only blog, he specifically talked about the dog whistle of we're following the science, and I think it's a great topic.
Interesting. By the way, before you proceed, can I ask you something?
Sure.
Is there a plastic bottle cap on your desk?
No, I might have been fidgeting with the pen. I will clear the area. This microphone's not so great at picking up voices, but any kind of clicks that may be
exactly
200 degrees off of the axis, it's astonishing.
I hope it wasn't me kicking off my shoes under my desk here.
That could be. And periodically you'll hear the squeaking of my chair, which was a perfectly good chair when we found it alongside of the road next to somebody's trash can about 15 years ago.
So I want to talk about this idea of following the science, and so it'll be kind of a prelude.
So the phrase "following the science" is in itself a dog whistle?
I think I'm not entirely sure it's the classic definition of dog whistle, but it certainly is a message to people who are tuned to hear it. And the message is, don't argue with us. We have experts on this. We're not opening because we're following the science.
That's
right.
Or
we're going to shut down the economy because we're following the science, or your children are going to burn. Don't argue. This is science, and it's been settled, and everybody knows the science is settled. And that's the great thing about science is once something has been discovered, it's settled forever. It's never improved upon, never disproven. Once science settles something, it's by God settled.
That's why in the olden days,
turtles all the way down and always will be.
That's right.
There's no place for skepticism in science, young men.
That's why in the olden days you could publish one set of the encyclopedia and never have to publish another one.
That's right. We already learned everything.
And somebody was at I don't know, it might have been somebody famous was talking about somewhere around 1905 or something. They were saying we pretty much really ought to shut down the U.S. Patent Office because there's nothing left to invent.
Yeah. Bill, are we calling this W or M?
That'll be the M.
Okay. Marvelous Martha. Okay. And what will the W
one,
be?
I posted on the members blog yesterday as an unusual take on Memorial Day. 5 days ago, in Corpus Christi, a jihadist drove to the front gate. He was going to go on the base, kill as many people as he could. Drove up to the front gate, stopped at the gate. The woman, it was a female Navy guard. The guy rolled down the window and he shot her in the chest, knocked her over backwards, and then proceeded to basically burst through the gate and start making a run for it. Turns out that this woman was wearing a Kevlar vest, and she immediately rolled over and hit the emergency barrier, which came up and stopped the guy. She then got up and started putting rounds from her pistol into the car, and a number of other security guys came along. Nobody's sure exactly who killed the guy, but she was apparently returning fire.
Yeah.
Needless to say, the media is all over it.
With praise for this woman, right?
No, it's completely, the story's vanished. There's no mention of it at all.
It broke, what was it, Friday night or something? Saturday morning? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the 20th, I think.
And by Monday, it was dead.
Yeah, and the reason it's dead is for a number of reasons. First of all, it's jihadi, Muslim, terrorist. That's off the ticket. And you would think they'd be running with the fact that it was a woman who did this.
Yeah.
But apparently, I'm thinking that there's a problem because she used a gun.
Yes.
Now, if she jumped out and beaten him up and thrown him around, and knocked him through the air and given him a flying scissors kick or something, then we never hear the end of it. But that kind of thing is not so effective as a gun generally. And I've looked at 3 articles. I couldn't find her name. I did get sent the story with a picture of her, but not only there's no picture and there's also no name. So I'm going to blur the face on the picture. I suspect that the reason for this is because they're trying to protect her from retribution. This is often the case with.
Now not to say that this is, the way things are, but do you have any concern that maybe this was a story that was floated out there that doesn't have backing in fact?
No. I found there's 3. I found 3 independent confirmations of the story. I've got video of somebody getting out of their car, hearing gunshots being fired. It's been confirmed by Stars and Stripes and a couple of other things.
Good.
So it's real.
Stars and Stripes was all I needed to hear.
And part of the story, of course, is how she's just been completely it's just a non-story. It's just a non-story. But my close on this, I'm going to be perfectly honest about this. Needless to say, there have been women in the military for a long time, and needless to say, they've been performing very well in a number of jobs. They're excellent helicopter pilots, A-10 attack pilots, all of this stuff. I seriously had doubts about a woman's ability to deal with this kind of thing as a general rule, and those doubts have been utterly laid to rest by this individual who performed with extraordinary valor, presence of mind, all of it. And it's not that I was thinking that they couldn't do it. It's just that I didn't know if they could. But to walk up to a car to get shot in the chest and go down backwards and have the first thing you do is roll over and slam your hand down on the emergency barricade and then get up, draw your weapon and start firing into that car, that's good enough for me, by God.
Yeah.
And
that's how we do it in training.
That's how we do it in America. Yep. And God bless her. And I don't have her name. I've looked at 3 articles. I can't find her name, so I'm not going to worry about it. Somebody did send a picture. I don't know for sure if the picture is her. But I'll probably run the picture with her face blurred, only because it seems quite obvious that her name is being withheld on purpose.
Good.
For instance, the FBI says we wanted to just express our deep appreciation for the heroism of the personnel involved, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
wow.
Yeah. My take on it was it would have been a somewhat slightly longer Memorial Day if she hadn't done her job as well as she did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's impressive.
Awesome. Okay, so that's 2 of Bill's episodes. Stephen Green, you're up.
I've got 2 stories. I don't know which one to do.
Pick the top one.
They're both really good. Okay. I think I know which one I want to do, but let me throw both of them out there anyway. The first one, the one I'm leaning less toward, is the New York Times chose Memorial Day weekend to publish an editorial signed by the editorial board. I don't know if it's because everybody wanted credit or nobody was willing to take credit. A 2,000-word editorial asking why our military embraces white supremacy and the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, those miserable bastards, those swine.
Yeah. I'm getting an echo here from somewhere. Does somebody have their speakers on?
No. I can turn them on if you'd like. Why the military embraces what? White supremacy?
White supremacy. Ku Klux Klan, yeah.
I'm writing this down. So
Yeah, I wrote a big piece on it yesterday for PJ. And
I wish I could go read that right now.
I almost
It's going to be tough to top that one.
I almost did a topic because there was a New York Times editorial that was basically talking about how well the American people are handling the whole, pandemic, lockdown, whatever you want to call it. And I thought it was unusual. And they, what are we now, 6-8 weeks into this thing? And they finally got around to doling out some long overdue praise to people who have adapted to circumstances and done the best they could given the constraints of the moment. Now, they did throw in a couple of jabs against, politicians and blah, blah, blah. But I thought, wow, the New York Times has actually looked out at America and said, hey, there's something good to be told here. But apparently there's also...
How did they ruin it at the end?
Yeah, and then they ruin it with the column you're talking about, too.
You're going to have to be awfully impressive to beat that one.
Better than that one. Talk about the lockdown and how pointless it is. New figures out today from, whatever the hell it was, organization. I don't have my notes in front of me. 42% of our dead from COVID-19, nursing homes and assisted care facilities. You are 23 times more likely to die of a COVID-19 infection if you are in a nursing home than if you are not.
Wow.
Yeah. The mortality rate for 65 and under is 1 in 1,116, or 0.09%, so less than 1 in 1,000. And it's a sliding scale. The closer you are to 65, double. The higher you get, the closer you get towards that 0.09% risk factor. And we gotta end this thing, this lockdown. This is insane. Yeah. We've been sticking the infected in with the vulnerable and keeping everybody else in their homes. We are doing exactly the opposite of what we should be doing.
I choose topic 1.
That sounds about right.
Topic 1? All right. I got plenty of notes on that.
I do too.
Okay. Hang on. There we go. We're good. Yeah, let me pull this up real quick. Talk amongst yourselves. I usually have this ready to go before showtime, but it was a bit of crazy morning here.
By the way, we have been now today, as we record this, I think we're on the 26th of May. I went back to work on the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, and Star Wars Day.
And so, now we've got 3 or 4 weeks of breathing my own exhaust in a mask in a retail environment.
Have you had to load corpses into the pickup truck out of the store floor yet, or is that just a matter of days away?
Mostly sofas and chairs and stuff.
Corpses on the sofas?
The sofas have been stacked like furniture, Bill. Furniture.
Technically, some of the leather sofas are made of cowhide, so I guess you could call that what you were saying. But no, it's so far. We've been quite busy, and a lot of pent up demand. Nice. People coming back to buy furniture, and there's been no stories that I've heard yet of any one of my associates coming down with anything. We kind of did a rolling return where we brought more people back, and I think this past weekend was the first day that we had everybody back on the sales floor, and we needed more than everybody back on the sales floor.
That's great news.
And all day long, the managers ring this hunt line that rings everybody's phone when they're trying to find a salesperson, and it was just nonstop hunt line ringing.
Nice.
Yeah. So far so good. All precautions being taken, of course, but it's been very encouraging to see how this was going, and I'm glad to still be talking and breathing good air. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my topic, and I got this, believe it or not, out of the Dallas Observer. There's a guy named Rob Kenny, and Rob Kenny starts a YouTube channel back around the beginning of April of this year. Rob Kenny is a mid-50s guy who's raised a couple of adult children, and he and his daughter got the idea that he should start making some videos, just as little tutorials or little how-to videos about things that kids need to know growing up. And so Rob Kenny, at this point, when I checked on the 26th of May, has 1.96 million YouTube followers. Is he sexy? No. Does he have lots of special effects and fast cuts in his videos? No. It's typically one camera, one shot, him talking. What's he doing? He's teaching people how to tie a tie, how to shave your face if you're a man, how to iron a shirt, how to check your tire pressure or change a tire, how to unclog a drain. The YouTube channel is called Dad, How Do I...
Oh, man.
And the comments, unless you have a heart of stone, reading comment after comment from people saying, my dad left when we were young, or I never knew my dad, or I'm a foster child, or I'm an orphan, and this guy has become the father I never had. And he just talks into the camera and tells you how to unclog a drain. He tries to, share a little encouragement and values along the way. He's a guy who I get the sense from an article I read about him that he came to faith in Christ a little later in life, but has been married for 29 years, raised a couple of adult children successfully. And he's very careful to say, look, I'm like every other dad. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm not trying to hold myself up as anything. On the YouTube channel itself, I couldn't find his name. I had to go read an article about him to find his name. I went to his Facebook page. I couldn't find his name. But his name is Rob Kenny. And I think the most touching thing is that people will post comments because he invites them to suggest other ideas for videos. And some of the comments just start out, flat out, just say, Dad, how do I?
Really?
Yeah. Like they're talking to their own father. It reminded me of that scene in Field of Dreams where Kevin Costner gets the chance to have a catch with, what was his name in the movie? I can't even remember.
Oh, with his dad.
Yeah, but it was his dad in the movie, and he's not saying that he's his dad the whole time, and then at one moment he just spontaneously says dad, and that's what I got reading these comments. I was like, I know a little bit about what this is like. Raised by my grandparents, dad ran away when I was about 4 or 5 years old, something like that, and to not have somebody that you call dad for all those years, and then to suddenly be able to look at a man and say, hey, Dad, how do I tie a tie? Anyway, that's my topic.
I love it.
If I can get through it.
Yeah, if I can get through it. Jeez.
For the good of the order, we had our fifth video chat this past week, and you can watch the video of that, uncut, uncensored, in its full glory. And we had, 15 or 17 members join us on the chat, including one of our members, Deborah, who was actually... Her picture looked really weird, and her head kept coming in and out of the background, almost like some special effect.
Yeah, it was very strange.
Yes, and we're like, what's going on with this person? Is she just struggling to figure out how to work it? Turns out she was driving a car in Israel. She was, and so
21st century, baby. How cool is that?
And what we were seeing was the light kept changing because he's driving a car and, you pass a tree or a building or whatever, and it gets dark and it gets light. It gets and so the pseudo green screen background kept, kind of buckling.
Karen, yeah.
She ripped the fabric of the time-space continuum.
Just to give you an idea of how far we've come in a relatively short amount of time, when I started Vodka Pundit in January of 2002, I had to figure out, and it was a Blogspot blog originally. I didn't own my own domain. Yes. And I had to jump through some hoops trying to figure out a way to upload an image just for a headshot in the blog sidebar. And bandwidth was so scarce. Blogspot didn't host images at the time. Forget about video, right? And what I found I could do is your Amazon profile page had a spot for a headshot. So I uploaded one to my Amazon page and then copied the URL and plugged that code into Vodka Pundit.
You had an Amazon profile page
in 2002.
Yeah.
In 2002?
Yeah.
Wow. And we wondered why Amazon was losing money at that point of time.
He saved them like the Simpsons saved Fox. That's when they first started shipping alcohol and movies. And Steve Green alone pulled that company out of the financial nosedive.
A couple of years ago, Amazon was celebrating their 20th anniversary and their very first order, which is the guy that they named their headquarters after, the guy who placed their very first order. And it was for some scientific text that you could only find on Amazon at the time.
It's a very cool thing to do, actually.
And so I got, what's my first order? So I go back to I went through my history. I went to page 11,016,000 or whatever it was in my order history.
You can see your original orders?
You can.
Yeah, they track everything you ever spot for them.
And my very first Amazon order, it was in 1999, shortly before Christmas. And it was a Star Wars toy for one of my little cousins and 2 Elmore Leonard books. I'm like, man, not much has changed since 1999.
Except nobody buys Star Wars toys anymore.
Well, I'm going to have to go back and look at that because I don't know I have no recollection of what my original order was.
Yeah.
My first order on Amazon was for stone knives and bear skins.
That's right.
It was sent by smoke signal.
It's like, what is that chemical I need for treating an animal hide? Can I buy that on Amazon? Okay, well, stone knives. That's it. We're done with the meeting, I think, and now we're going to shoot our episodes of. How many minutes are we now into it? Oh, this is not bad. Only 31 minutes.
May I suggest
we
that we
could have
take
gone another
Scott's
15
last?
minutes. Just the way we could have gone on to the next rest stop, and
If
then
you
people would have
want-
felt so much better when they hear it's over. But let's just not do that.
If you want, we can just leave the cameras running while we go change our clothes and come back later, and then we can cut it off and
Won't
tell
be a
Mark
noticeable difference anyway.
to keep all of it. Well, thank you to our members who continue to make this possible. You've probably noticed there have been some changes on the website. We've had a lot of member feedback that made it possible to do the things we've done. And I'm sure there are still some glitches that we need to clean up. But the search gizmo works a lot better and is obvious on the homepage. We tried to give more prominence to member-generated content. So as soon as you log in as a member, you'll see the latest posts on the member blog and the latest comments from our members that will appear right there on the front page. The unwashed will get a message from Bill Whittle saying, what's wrong with you? Why haven't you become a member yet? Or words to that effect.
I should tell you, by the way, having just spent some time with it yesterday, that Scott has made it so not only user friendly, but he's made it like emotionally rewarding kind of thing. Scott used to work with with special needs kids, and the whole website has a kind of a Operation Good Job kind of a feel to it. Good job. You've uploaded a picture. Hey, congratulations. You've made your first blog post. Good job.
Hey, Bill, looks like you're trying to write a blog post. Want some help with that?
Go to hell, Clippy.
Okay, well, get in there, kick the tires, use the little help link in the main menu. And by the way, the mobile experience is vastly improved now. If you
Very snappy.
before there was essentially a mobile website, but no way to navigate it. I'm exaggerating.
Sounds
a
like
little
us.
bit, but anyway, it's a much better navigational system now on the website. But I'm sure that there are some things that I could make better, or just some peccadillos, personal problems that you have that you'd like to play out and manifest toward me. So just feel free to send a link. There's an email link under the FAQ link or something like that. It just says help, and let us know how we can help and make the experience better for you. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.